on the board yet again. Who has done the better homework in that little break?
And how many of the moves will be repeated from their classical game earlier today? Bishop is on g5, so as Hikaru said, you had to play h6 earlier as black if you want to prevent that line. Magnus is entering the very same line, and it's solid. The way he played earlier, so favors the player with the draw odds.
He called it a cop-out. He's gone for it, Magnus Carlsen. He's repeating the exact same moves that we saw in the classical game. And Firouzja, the first to sit back, pause, sip some water. Wow. Mind games at play, Danny.
I think it's a great decision by Magnus, honestly. And I wonder if Firouzja is ultimately going to be surprised by this, or if he looked at this with his second in between. We know that they've quickly grabbed the computer and worked hard at times, right where we can see them, just over here to our right. I didn't see them this time. Doesn't mean that they weren't preparing somewhere else. But
this is preparation.
Wait,
It's preparation.
G5.
He's sacrificing a piece already.
He played G5, and Firouzja sacrifices the knight without thinking about it at all. We are in for a thriller, boys and girls. This is not going to be a grinded-out Magnus Carlsen draw. Firouzja's all in, and I love it.
Yeah, this is fantastic Armageddon strategy. Firouzja has his second hero on site. Clearly some work was going on behind the scenes.
Oh my god, so many hanging pieces.
It's crazy.
And they're both splitting it out. Sorry, David, but it's just like both are prepared. Both know what's going on.
Show us the lines, David. Show us the lines.
I'm not sure what to show you. I mean, right now, the Black Queen is hit. She has to move. I think there was actually a lot beneath the surface just a moment ago. Quick action replay. G5 played. Bishop to D5 was the last choice. Firouzja here deviating from that earlier game. Knight takes G5. Fireworks. This is going to explode. Magnus playing Knight takes D5. This was given a mistake by the computer. Magnus maybe with no time to stop and consider all the nuances. And after Queen takes Bishop here, a quick count shows that White was temporarily a piece down for the last few moves, but continues to gain tempi. The Black Queen moves, and this, after the dust settles, is the position. The blue arrow makes an appearance. Queen to E2. Best and found.
He has just played it. Has he not? Oh, I thought, yeah.
Yep. Defending the F2 square. And after all of that, it's level material?
It's level material, but anything but level and balanced on the board. I mean, both sides have enough weaknesses to lose. Black is swinging the rook to h5. With checkmate attacks, you're going to double the rooks on the f-file, and the monster sniper of a bishop is just judging everyone on the dark squares. Go sit in your corner and judge people, bishop. That's what the bishops do. But let's count Black's weaknesses, because there's like 50 of them. The a6 pawn, the doubled c pawns, the doubled e pawns, the black king is wide open, the h6 pawn is a problem. Like, this is the definition of a 3-result position, and here we are in Armageddon.
Yeah, Firouzja though, so confident, so quick up to this point. Some critical decisions that required a lot of calculation, and he's made those instantly. 3.5 minutes up on the clock almost. I think Firouzja, he's got enough imbalance here to really get optimistic now. Magnus shuffles his rook across, big threat to capture a pawn on g3.
The accuracy value is a 98.7% versus Magnus's 95.5%, and also more time advantage. David, please show the lines. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm just amazed about this preparation. I'm still trying to digest it.
No, feel free to jump in. That's just how exciting it is, Anna. Rook takes g3. I'm expecting either knight to e4 or queen to g2. Those two moves fend off the threats. But queen trade doesn't seem to be up Firouzja's alley. I'm not sure style-wise that he would be wanting to do that, even if long-term White has a lot of weaknesses to probe at, knight versus bishop.
I like knight e4 a lot. That knight belongs in the center, and it's showing how Black's bishop is so not in the game. It has that diagonal that it's shooting at, but there's nothing on that diagonal. So once the knight goes to e4, the rook will need to move. I'm guessing rook to h5.
We should really appreciate that Magnus is all in on the king side here, because every positional road or simplification path this game could take is just ugly. The pawn structure has been completely torn apart. And obviously, we got a lot of craziness ahead in tactics. But Firouzja, I think here, rightfully managing his time a little bit. It was a little bit more of a think than you would want. His 3-minute advantage now down to 2. But I think he was right to just make sure he didn't get checkmated, David. That's my point. Because Magnus shoved all of his chips in and said, I have to go bust you on the king side. But if the pieces start getting kicked back, that eval bar will just creep up more and more for White. And Firouzja will be in great shape.
Yeah, interesting that Magnus, who's maybe the endgame expert of our time, kept the queens on. I think it's because of the clock situation. An endgame knight versus bishop, that would go round and round forever and ever. Magnus wants to be direct. Just because he's lower on the clock, he wants to make it as sharp as possible, which should really suit Firouzja here. H5, very AlphaZero-esque, trying to use the pawn as a battering ram, but the white knight is going to land on e4 soon. This is so sharp. I don't think it's as straightforward as the eval bar would mention, though, which would suggest.
No, totally agree. And it's even if white is objectively better according to the eval bar, this is a practical game. That's why it's played between two human beings who don't have the luxury of that. And Firouzja is the one under pressure. But he also knows if he parries the threats, he's got a great long-term position. That is a very risky move. He's going all in now for the weaknesses. Knight a5 is his idea to attack the c-pawns, but you're taking a piece out of defense and out of the center on e4, and maybe going pawn grabbing. I'm a little nervous about this idea.
Yeah, I thought he was heading toward e4 to attack the rook and also to be closer to the king side in general. Wow, David, what do you think about the king side attack now that the knight is heading toward the other flank?
I mean, we mentioned Magnus going all in. I think he just has to be consistent. There's no way he's going to stop the attack long term against the black pawns. Those pawns are likely going to fall if the white knight jumps in. Maybe you could slow it down with bishop to b6 just to cover the a5 square, but ultimately I think it's time to keep pushing those chips into the center. h4, go for it.
I totally agree. I think h4 is probably what you have to do, but this game is going to come down to somebody flagging. I'm calling it right now. Like, this is wild. Like, they're going to spend a bunch of time over the next few moves because it's so crazy, and then they're going to be blitzing it out. Like, this is going to be an absolute scramble.
Firouzja's been blitzing all day, it feels like. He's in the rhythm ever since that classical game, and 3 minutes still up on the clock, Danny.
Yeah, well, he did spend an hour to get into the rhythm. Maybe that was it. The 1 hour spent on one move in his classical game.
Wow, Magnus has spent a minute and a half here. That is really reckless time handling.
The advantage is now squarely back in Firouzja's corner, up 3 minutes on the clock. Weird little clock reset there. h4 is played by Magnus, quickly responded, and we have liftoff. Firouzja trying to lock it up on the light squares so that the bishop on a7 stays out. And if you can play h3, are you just shutting down the studio?
Looks that way. Maybe the black bishop wants to come into the f4 square. I'm not sure whether you've got time for that with black, but h3 just looks like the most practical, Danny. It looks like white should shut down that whole color complex, shut down any attack. A pawn on h3, and you have to worry about checkmate for the rest of the game. This might be the critical moment, Anna.
It seems to be, and I'm just loving it. I'm loving that this is Armageddon and everyone is going all in. Well, I guess Magnus Carlsen mainly going all in, but he's the one with draw odds. So the fact that it's black who has to go all in, because otherwise you don't have compensation for all the weaknesses in your position. This is great. This is what Firouzja wants. For Magnus, he has to go on this path. There is no way out of it. I'm still shocked about the piece sacrifice earlier. It's just amazing to see.
This scares me. The Firouzja just allowed the pawn to get to h3. You called AlphaZero earlier. Ring, 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 right? Pawn on h3, mating net. This is the idea that has changed the way these players play these positions, because now everything else is going to happen, and at some point, there's going to be a mating net. Look at the king on h1. Look at the bishop guarding the g1 square. The pawn on h3 guarding g2. This is an idea that the modern-day engines have pushed into the forefront, and I really just don't like that Alireza allowed that. I think it's so dangerous, because when this time scramble comes and players are inevitably making mistakes, that is so dangerous.
He might be banking on his time advantage, because he's very good at keeping his time advantage. He's keeping up with the pace.
Eat your, eye candy there. I don't know, like eat your heart out, right? What was going on with that? By the way, I think Hikaru has a trick on the board if he plays rook g3 check and king h5, rook f3, like trying to swindle a king and pawn ending. Maybe that was his idea. But we'll see what happens over there. Okay. What do we got here? 2 minutes for Carlsen, 4.5 minutes for Alireza. Checks on the board. David, your thoughts?
I mean, there's just so much to calculate. Taking a pawn, for example, going all in with white this time would allow the black queen in, perhaps. Imagine the black queen ever landing on the g2 square. That would be the end. The knight jumps in. I mean, this is just so random for a top-level game. But white has more time. Now, trade of pawns, attacking the bishop.
I don't like that Alireza let that pawn get to h3. I think that's going to cause serious problems later on, as you've called before. It's like a bone in the throat. And anyway, all right. Well, the scramble will be on. I already said I think we're going to get a flagging affair in this. Both of these guys, for the record, have lost an Armageddon game in this event by flagging. Magnus Carlsen went down to Hikaru Nakamura, losing on time. Alireza Firouzja went down to Praggnanandhaa, losing on time. So it has happened.
It might well happen again. Magnus, 1.5 minutes now. He very tentatively played that move. It looked hesitant. He nearly didn't want to take his hand off the queen. It is a pawn sacrifice. He's actually giving up a pawn on this square. But I think White's knight is so strong that Magnus would rather see that trade, activate his rook, maybe via e5. There's going to be so many tricks in the air with the White king that I think he's getting away with it. Firouzja might want to keep tension on the board. If he can pick up this a-pawn somehow, he has a pass pawn of his own, but it just looks so slow. Any queenside action. Magnus withdraw odds. I think I would take his position, Anna, but the clock.
Yeah, the position, I think, is favoring Magnus's chances with the draw odds especially so, but the time is, I think, it makes me really worried about Magnus's situation overall. He needs some simplification so that he can speed up, but also then, the increment is not enough. 1 second increment will not keep you in the game for long.
Couldn't agree more. I think we're all on the same page. Magnus's position to be preferred. Firouzja bit off a lot over there on the king side, where there are going to be mating nets against the White king once wonders start happening. I like Firouzja's idea of maybe trading queens. You highlighted the 2-on-1. If you can get the passed a-pawn going, that could be very difficult, and that knight on c6 is perfectly positioned to just drive it up the board. But maybe that's the idea of rook g6. He wants to play d5 at some point. If you're Magnus, you want to try to get that knight out of there. Or you're going to double on the f-file. Actually, that's probably the more clear idea. Just rook f6 on the next move. Which, by the way, is a direct response to Alireza's rook c1. Because the rook can't go to c3 anymore like it could go to d3. So now I'm like, nervous. I'm nervous. I just said I'm like nervous. I'm like nervous, okay? I'm like seriously nervous. All right, let's continue.
You're nervous. What are the players experiencing here?
I'm just on the edge of my seat here with these guys.
Wow, Firouzja needs a trick. He's got a lot more time on the clock, but Black's plan here just easier to play. Alekine's gun, as the featured chat mentions. I'm not sure whether it's the right order for Alekine's gun, but either way, ganging up, tripling up on the weakness. Really logical stuff from the world number one. Firouzja, deep in thought now.
Yeah, he's burning quite some time here. Already a minute spent on this decision, and that is making him lose quite some of his time advantage.
Yeah, it's big. Time advantage is dwindling. That is not great. It's another reason why I was just surprised Firouzja didn't just play h3 when he had a chance, because that's the kind of move you play in both. You kill the chances of the attack. It's a move you play in 3 seconds instead of what he took, which was about a minute to play queen e2 back in that spot, and I'm just scared. By the way, if the queen moves to the wrong square here, even moves like rook takes g4 are like winning on the spot. Like queen to d2, rook takes g4, and the pawn on f3 is pinned because of puzzle rush checkmates on the back range with queen takes f1. So more and more looking very scary for Firouzja, and the king of Armageddon might be on his way to doing it again. Despite the fact that Alireza has won every battle with White, it may not happen against Magnus if this pace continues.
And Alireza already has spent 2 minutes on this decision and is losing completely his time advantage. It's gone. Now it's even. The clock situation, you called it, Danny, that this game will be decided in time pressure. I thought that can only be time.
Magnus instantly replying, really hammering home his clock advantage now suddenly. The Alekine's gun, the tripled heavy pieces on the f-file, creates so many threats. Firouzja's lost control. He would love to have his king on g2 and a pawn on h3, but yeah, the White king just trapped. And in practical terms, look at this, 40 seconds. He's tanked, he's frozen.
This is a mating net, and he doesn't like what he sees. By the way, Humpy Canero and Zhu and Jun have drawn their classical game. They didn't like what they saw anymore. They're going to throw down in the tiebreaker known as Armageddon. So we have nonstop action likely from here until the end of the day. Don't go anywhere. Round 9, Norway chess women. You know what you want.
Yeah, Magnus getting all the pieces off the board. This game has completely transformed. It's an ending, but the White king is in so much trouble. The White rook slides behind the a-pawn, but a losing blunder from Firouzja. The blue arrow makes an appearance.
D3 is a winning move, and Magnus, is he about to reach for that pawn?
I think he's just calculating the race. He sees it. Oh, he doesn't see it. He plays rook to b3. D3, A5, D2, A6, and Rook E3 was threatening mate. That's what Magnus missed. It's not
He
just the threat of the
missed.
pawn. It was a tempo. And now we're in a drawn endgame. Lucky for Magnus, it may not matter because a draw is as good as a victory.
He wanted to play safety first chess, but we see the clocks. 7 seconds against 40 here. Black just in time to hold the white A pawn. But still complicated. Still anything could happen.
Yeah, this is now...
Oh,
okay,
5,
3 seconds.
4, 3,
2 seconds,
2.
you gotta move.
Wow, he's making moves with only a couple
He's
seconds
got-
left.
He's gonna flag.
I said someone was gonna lose on time. Sorry, I screamed. I'm scared.
Alireza made a move with 1 second on the clock. And again, he's doing it. 1 second. It keeps going down to 1 second. He's not gonna be able to do it
Yeah,
for
and
much
the game has gotten
longer.
away, and Firouzja